You're probably destroying your own reputation without even knowing it. Every single day, you're making choices that seem harmless, even virtuous. But they're slowly eroding the respect others have for you. And the worst part, you think you're being a good person while you do it. Niccolo Machiavelli, the master strategist who understood human nature better than perhaps anyone in history, would be horrified by how naive we've become. He warned us centuries ago that good intentions pave the road to social destruction. Yet here you are, committing the same fatal errors that have crushed countless lives before yours. You're destroying yourself. Yes, that's exactly what's happening. Those innocent habits you're so proud of. They're the very weapons being used against your own success. Today we're diving into the 5 seemingly innocent behaviors that are systematically destroying your image, your influence, and your power. And by the end, you won't just identify these silent destroyers. You'll see exactly how the people around you have been weaponizing your goodness against you, and discover what happens to people who never break free from this trap. Machiavelli understood that in the game of human perception, nice guys don't just finish last. They get eliminated entirely. Stay till the end, because at the very end, you'll discover the shocking addiction Machiavelli predicted centuries ago in you, an addiction you have right now, but don't even realize is controlling your life. This is the first move Machiavelli would have warned you about. Habit 1. Over-apologizing, the poison of false humility. You say sorry more times in a day than you say your own name. When someone bumps into you, you apologize. When you have a different opinion, you start with, sorry, but. When you ask for something you've earned, you apologize for asking. You think this makes you polite, considerate, humble. You're wrong. Machiavelli observed that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel. Every time you apologize unnecessarily, people see weakness. They see someone who doesn't believe in their own worth. They see prey. Think about the last meeting you attended. How many times did you say sorry for things that weren't your fault? How many times did you minimize your own contributions? You thought you were being modest, but what really happened was you trained everyone in that room to value you less. Here's the brutal truth. Over-apologizing doesn't make people like you more. It makes them respect you less. And without respect, likability is worthless. Machiavelli knew that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But you're achieving neither. You're apologizing yourself into invisibility. Your brain has been programmed to believe that taking up space is selfish, that confidence is arrogance, that defending yourself is aggression. This programming is destroying you. Every unnecessary apology is a small surrender of your power, a tiny admission that you don't deserve to exist fully in this world. The people who succeed, the ones who command respect and admiration, they apologize only when they've genuinely wronged someone. For everything else, they stand firm. They don't apologize for their opinions, their needs, their presence. They understand what Machiavelli understood, that perception shapes reality, and weakness perceived becomes weakness embodied. Stop apologizing for existing. Stop apologizing for having needs. Stop apologizing for being human. Your excessive apologies aren't making you more likable. They're making you forgettable. But over-apologizing isn't the only way you're sabotaging yourself. There's something even more dangerous you're doing every single day. Habit 2. Being overly available. The curse of the always open door. Your phone buzzes, and you respond immediately. Someone needs a favor, and you drop everything. Your calendar is everyone else's to fill. You pride yourself on being the reliable one, the one people can count on, the one who's always there. Congratulations. You've just taught everyone that your time has no value. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." What you appear to be is someone with nothing better to do. Someone whose time is infinitely available because it's infinitely worthless. Someone who can be interrupted, dismissed, and taken for granted. This isn't kindness. This is self-destruction with a smile. Think about the people you respect most. Are they the ones who drop everything for anyone? Or are they the ones whose time feels precious? You've confused being helpful with being valuable. But Machiavelli understood the difference. Value comes from scarcity. Respect comes from boundaries. Power comes from the ability to say no. Every time you immediately respond to every message, you're telling the world that you have nothing more important to do. Every time you rearrange your schedule for someone else's convenience, you're broadcasting that your priorities are negotiable. Every time you make yourself available to everyone, you become important to no one. The most successful people understand what Machiavelli called the necessity of appearing busy. They don't ignore people out of cruelty. They protect their time out of wisdom. They understand that availability is inversely related to perceived value. Your constant availability isn't making you more loved. It's making you less respected. It's not making you more necessary. It's making you more replaceable. The person who's always free is the person nobody really wants to be around. You think you're building relationships by being constantly available, but you're actually destroying them. When someone can have your attention anytime they want, they value it less. When they have to earn your time, wait for your response, schedule around your priorities, suddenly your attention becomes precious. Your availability isn't the only thing killing your image. There's another habit that's making people see right through your weakness. Habit 3. Seeking validation through self-deprecation. The comedy of insecurity. You make jokes about yourself before anyone else can. You point out your flaws before others notice them. You downplay your achievements to seem humble. You think this self-deprecation makes you relatable, approachable, human. What it really makes you is forgettable. Machiavelli observed that men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims willing to be deceived. You're deceiving yourself into thinking that tearing yourself down builds others up, that highlighting your weaknesses makes you more likable. But here's what's actually happening. Every self-deprecating joke is an instruction manual for how others should treat you. Every time you point out your flaws, you're teaching people to see those flaws instead of your strengths. Every time you minimize your achievements, you're training the world to minimize them too. You think self-deprecation is humility, but it's actually a form of manipulation. You're trying to control how others see you by showing them your weaknesses first, hoping they'll be impressed by your honesty and overlook your flaws. It's a strategy born of fear, not confidence. The people who command respect don't waste time pointing out their imperfections. They let their competence speak for itself. They don't apologize for their success. They own it. They don't make themselves small to make others comfortable. They take up the space they deserve. Machiavelli understood that how we live is so different from how we ought to live, that he who studies what ought to be done rather than what is done will learn the way to his downfall rather than to his preservation. You think you ought to be modest, self-effacing, humble, but what you're actually doing is teaching everyone around you to dismiss you. Your self-deprecating humor isn't making you more relatable, it's making you less respectable. People don't connect with weakness, they exploit it. They don't admire self-doubt, they see opportunity. They don't respect someone who doesn't respect themselves. Stop being your own worst critic in public. Stop giving people reasons to think less of you. Stop turning your insecurities into entertainment for others. Your flaws are not your personality, and your mistakes are not your identity. Self-deprecation isn't the worst thing you're doing to your reputation. There's something even more destructive that you probably did just today. Habit 4. Oversharing personal information. The vulnerability trap. You share your struggles with acquaintances. You tell your co-workers about your relationship problems. You discuss your financial worries with people you barely know. You think this makes you authentic, real, relatable. You think vulnerability builds connections. Sometimes it does. Most times, it destroys them. Machiavelli warned that he who neglects what is done for what ought to be done sooner effects his ruin than his preservation. You think you ought to be open, honest, vulnerable, but what you're actually doing is handing people weapons to use against you. Information is power, and you're giving yours away for free. Every personal detail you share becomes a potential point of attack. Every weakness you reveal becomes a tool for manipulation. Every struggle you discuss becomes evidence of your inability to handle life's challenges. You think you're building intimacy, but you're actually building case files for why people shouldn't take you seriously. The most powerful people understand what Machiavelli called the necessity of keeping certain things secret. They don't share every thought, every struggle, every personal detail. They understand that mystery creates intrigue, that boundaries create respect, that some information should be earned, not freely given. You've confused authenticity with oversharing. Real authenticity isn't about revealing everything. It's about being genuine within appropriate boundaries. It's about sharing the right information with the right people at the right time, for the right reasons. When you overshare with everyone, you share intimately with no one. When you make your private life public, you make your public life weak. When you turn acquaintances into therapists, you turn yourself into a patient in their eyes. Your oversharing isn't making you more connected. It's making you more exposed. It's not making you more trustworthy. It's making you more vulnerable. It's not making you more interesting. It's making you more of a liability. People don't respect those who can't keep their own counsel. They don't trust those who share secrets indiscriminately. They don't want to be around those who turn every conversation into a therapy session. But there's one final habit that's destroying your image more than all the others combined. This one is so subtle, you probably don't even realize you're doing it. Habit 5. People-pleasing at the expense of principles. The ultimate betrayal. You change your opinions based on who you're talking to. You agree with people to avoid conflict. You compromise your values to keep everyone happy. You think this makes you flexible, diplomatic, easy to get along with. What it really makes you is spineless. Machiavelli wrote, "A man who wants to make a profession of good in all regards must come to ruin among so many who are not good." You're trying to be good to everyone, to please everyone, to offend no one. In doing so, you're becoming nothing to everyone. People don't respect those who stand for nothing. They don't trust those who change with the wind. They don't follow those who won't take a position. Your people-pleasing isn't making you more likable. It's making you invisible. Think about the people you admire most. Do they agree with everyone? Do they change their positions to fit the room? Do they sacrifice their principles for popularity? Of course not. They stand for something, even when it's difficult. They maintain their positions, even when it's unpopular. They choose their values over their comfort. Your need to be liked by everyone ensures you'll be respected by no one. Your desire to avoid all conflict guarantees you'll win no battles. Your willingness to compromise everything means you'll achieve nothing. Machiavelli understood that, since it is difficult to join them together, it is safer to be feared than to be loved when one of the two must be lacking. You're so focused on being loved that you've forgotten to be respected. You're so concerned with approval that you've abandoned your integrity. Every time you change your stance to please someone else, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you pretend to agree when you don't, you become less authentic. Every time you choose harmony over honesty, you choose weakness over strength. People can sense inauthenticity from miles away. They can smell people-pleasing like a predator smells fear. They can see through your desperate need for approval, and it disgusts them, not because they're cruel, but because humans are biologically programmed to lose respect for those who don't respect themselves. Your principles are not suggestions, they're your foundation. Your values are not negotiable, they're your identity. Your convictions are not conversation starters, they're your strength. Think you've heard the worst of it? Think again. There's something deeper happening here that's been destroying lives for centuries. The Machiavellian mirror. Why these habits persist. You know what's truly terrifying about these 5 habits? You're not doing them by accident. Society has programmed you to destroy yourself, and you're following the script perfectly. Machiavelli understood something that modern psychology is just beginning to grasp. Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities. The present necessity our culture has created is the need to be liked, to fit in, to be seen as good. And that need is killing your potential. Think about it. From childhood, you were rewarded for apologizing quickly, for being available to help others, for not bragging about your achievements, for sharing your feelings, for keeping everyone happy. Every parent, teacher, and authority figure in your life trained you to be weak and called it virtue. They didn't do this maliciously. They genuinely believed they were preparing you for a kind, collaborative world. But that world doesn't exist. The real world operates on Machiavellian principles, whether we acknowledge it or not. The real world rewards strength, values scarcity, respects boundaries, and follows leaders who stand for something. You've been fighting a rigged game your entire life, using the wrong rules, wondering why you keep losing. But here's where it gets really dark. The people who succeed, they know exactly what you've been doing wrong. The predators among us, how others exploit your virtues. Right now, there are people in your life who have identified every single one of these habits in you. They've cataloged your weaknesses. They're using your goodness against you. The colleague who always asks you to cover their work, they know you can't say no. The friend who only calls when they need something, they know you'll always be available. The person who dismisses your ideas in meetings, they know you'll apologize instead of defending yourself. You think you are being loved by all? Machiavelli would laugh at you and warn you otherwise. You've made yourself neither feared nor loved. You've made yourself useful. And useful people get used. This isn't conspiracy thinking. This is human nature. People instinctively test boundaries. They probe for weakness. They exploit what they can exploit. Not because they're evil, but because that's how humans survive and thrive. Your over-apologizing tells them you don't believe in yourself. So why should they? Your constant availability tells them your time is worthless, so they waste it. Your self-deprecation tells them you don't respect yourself, so they won't either. Every predatory personality in your life, the manipulative boss, the narcissistic friend, the energy vampire, they all spotted these habits in you immediately. They saw you coming from a mile away. You're not unlucky in your relationships. You're predictable in your weaknesses. The successful people around you, the ones who seem to effortlessly command respect and get what they want, they're not necessarily better people. They're just better at recognizing and avoiding these self-destructive patterns. Want to know the scariest part? You're not just destroying your own life, you're teaching others to do the same. The generational curse, passing on weakness. If you have children, employees, or anyone who looks up to you, you're teaching them these same destructive habits. You're showing them that success comes from self-sacrifice, that respect comes from self-deprecation, that love comes from self-destruction. When your child sees you constantly apologizing, they learn that taking up space requires an apology. When they see you always available to others but never prioritizing yourself, they learn that their own needs don't matter. When they hear you putting yourself down, they learn that confidence is arrogance. Machiavelli understood that example is more efficacious than precept. You're not just living these patterns, you're modeling them. You're creating a legacy of weakness that will echo through generations. This is why some families seem cursed with people-pleasers, why some workplaces are full of pushovers, why some communities accept mediocrity as virtue. It's not genetics. It's learned helplessness passed down like a family heirloom. The people you're trying to protect by being good. Your children, your team, your community. You're actually handicapping them for life. You're preparing them for a world that doesn't exist, giving them tools that don't work, teaching them strategies that guarantee failure. Breaking this cycle isn't selfish. It's the most generous thing you can do. When you stop apologizing for your existence, you give others permission to exist fully. When you set boundaries, you teach others that their boundaries matter too. When you stand for your principles, you show others that having principles is possible. Ready for the hardest truth of all. The real reason you can't break these habits might shock you. The addiction to weakness. Why you sabotage yourself. Here's something Machiavelli understood that you might not be ready to hear. Part of you doesn't want to change. Part of you is addicted to being the victim, the helper, the one who sacrifices. Because being weak feels safer than being powerful. Power requires responsibility. Strength demands action. Respect means people expect things from you. It's easier to apologize and stay small than to own your space and deal with the consequences. It's easier to be available to everyone than to have to choose who deserves your time. It's easier to please everyone than to stand for something and face opposition. Your innocent habits aren't just habits. They're defense mechanisms. They protect you from the terrifying possibility of being truly seen, truly judged, truly responsible for your life. When you over-apologize, you protect yourself from having to be confident. When you're always available, you protect yourself from having to be selective. When you self-deprecate, you protect yourself from having to be impressive. When you overshare, you protect yourself from having to be mysterious. When you people-please, you protect yourself from having to have opinions. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." But what if the terrifying truth is that you don't know what you really are? What if you've been hiding behind these habits for so long that you've forgotten who you are underneath them? The thought of removing these protective behaviors, of standing fully in your power, of taking complete responsibility for your life, it's absolutely terrifying. Because if you do all that and still don't get the respect, love, and success you want, then what? If you can't blame it on being too nice, too available, too humble, then it might actually be your fault. This is the real trap. These habits don't just destroy your image. They protect you from the risk of discovering your true potential. They keep you safe in the prison of mediocrity while convincing you that the bars are made of virtue. The transformation Here's the truth that Machiavelli understood and that you need to accept. The world is not a playground where everyone gets along. It's a battlefield where perception determines survival. Your innocent habits aren't innocent. They're weapons of self-destruction. But here's the beautiful part. Awareness is the first step toward transformation. Every habit we've discussed can be changed. Every pattern can be broken. Every weakness can become a strength. The journey from weakness to strength isn't comfortable. It requires you to disappoint some people. It requires you to let some relationships end. It requires you to face the terrifying possibility that you're capable of more than you ever imagined. Stop apologizing for your existence and start owning your space. Stop being available to everyone and start being valuable to those who matter. Stop tearing yourself down and start building yourself up. Stop oversharing your struggles and start sharing your strength. Stop pleasing everyone and start standing for something. Machiavelli's ultimate lesson wasn't about being cruel or manipulative. It was about understanding reality. The reality is that how you're perceived determines how you're treated. How you're treated determines what opportunities you receive. What opportunities you receive determines the life you live. The successful people around you haven't discovered some secret formula. They've simply stopped doing the things that destroy success. They've recognized that in a world full of people destroying themselves with kindness, the person who combines kindness with strength becomes unstoppable. You don't have to become cold or cruel. You don't have to hurt others to help yourself. You just have to stop hurting yourself to help others. You have to stop setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. The person watching this video has the power to change everything. The question is, will you use that power, or will you keep apologizing for having it? Will you continue being the victim of your own virtues, or will you transform those virtues into victories? Your image is your reality, and your reality is your choice. But choosing change means choosing discomfort. It means disappointing some people who benefit from your weakness. It means facing the possibility that you're capable of greatness. The question isn't whether you can change. It's whether you're brave enough to find out who you really are when you stop hiding behind these habits. Machiavelli would tell you that fortune favors the bold, and your fortune is waiting for you to stop apologizing for wanting it. The challenge: if this video opened your eyes to the ways you've been unconsciously sabotaging yourself, then you're ready for the next level. Subscribe to this channel if you want more content that cuts through the social conditioning and tells you the truth about human nature, influence, and personal power. Hit the notification bell because I'll be releasing more videos that most channels are too afraid to make. Content that actually changes lives instead of just making you feel good for 10 minutes. And if you're serious about transforming your image and your life, comment below with "I'm ready for change" and tell me which of these habits hit you the hardest. Your honesty in the comments might just help someone else realize they're not alone in this struggle. But here's a challenge. Don't just watch this video and move on. Don't let this be another piece of content that makes you feel enlightened for 10 minutes before you go back to your old patterns. Pick one habit, just one, and commit to changing it this week. Start small, but start today. Remember, your image is your reality, and your reality is your choice. Choose wisely. Choose courageously. Choose now.